Welcome to Earth 2 Comic Cast, where superheroes exist and comic book talk is the norm. It's your host, Mo Crosby, back with Stephanie and James and Ant, who's actually here on time. We are here to give you Mandalorian. Oh, you don't know what we're talking about because I don't have my thingy at the bottom. We're here to give you Mandalorian season 2, episode 3, chapter 11. You know, it's weirdly chapter than episode. What are we? Oh,
great art, Ants. Much better than a question mark.
right. Yes. So we're here to give you. Yeah, we can hear you, sir.
Oh, okay.
So we're here to give you Mandalorian season 2, episode 3. Let's quickly jump into this one because there's a lot to talk about and a lot to unpack. If you've seen Clone Wars, if you've seen Clone Wars and Rebels, you're excited because they touch on a lot. There was one thing we talked about last week, and Anthony had said, I don't really care if the Darksaber never gets touched on again. I think it was Anthony that said that. I don't really care.
All notifications are going off.
It's mine.
Mo?
Anthony said, I don't really care if they never speak about the Darksaber again. And I was like, you know what? If it'll be a shame if they don't, because you did the cool thing with the last season. You did the cool thing with the last season, and then and then you just end it and never talk about it again. And here we are. And of course, it's the big part of this episode is pretty much Darksaber. And and another thing was the rest of the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian and the lore behind Mandalorians and the helmet thing. Stephanie, I'm gonna ask you first. What did you think of the episode when it ended? Were you like, whoa, oh my gosh, Clone Wars, Rebels, or
No, I did not really care for this episode, and I was sad at the end of it because I felt like season 1 was Star Wars, but it was so detached from everything that had happened in canon that it didn't matter if you had ever watched anything Star Wars before. Like, you could jump in and you understood what was happening enough. And it was fun. And they carried that through season 1. You didn't really need any background information about Star Wars to enjoy Mando season 1. And I feel like they're moving away from that. And this episode was kind of like the turning point of veering towards if you haven't watched Clone Wars, if you haven't watched the other TV shows, then you're not going to get the full experience. And that's really disappointing to me as a casual Star Wars fan. I'm bummed that there's stuff going on in this episode that I don't really understand. And I'm not going to take the time to go learn.
All right. James?
I also haven't seen all of Clone Wars or any of Rebels, but I didn't feel that way. I did appreciate on the same point though. I did appreciate some of the stuff I was able to catch from the background of what I do know that you can kind of see in the world, like the what is that, Admiral Akbar character? I don't know what his race is called,
But
the reason that they're called what?
I don't know either. I'm just saying.
Okay. But I do know that in Star Wars lore, they tend to be starship commanders or admirals in combat because they are an underwater race and are used to 3D fighting. And so having a whole water planet and there's that race hanging out and doing their thing was really cool. I don't know that is actually addressed in any TV show, though. That's just like background knowledge. Stuff I know as a guy who likes Star Wars. But I forgot your question, but I did like
it. Overall, like when it ended, what'd you think?
Overall, I liked it. I do not appreciate the Baby Yoda trying to eat the eggs stuff again. It's been like a last episode. I know he didn't eat any eggs this episode, and that was nice, but he wanted to.
They left that like lingering. I'm jumping way ahead, but like when Mando picks Babe up and he's like reaching. Is he reaching because he's bonded, or is he reaching because he's hungry?
Because at the very end, you see.
Why is he reaching?
At the very end, I think they answered that question. I think he was hungry. Ant, what do you think of the episode?
Just as a standalone, it was well done. I mean, there was the opening was really well done, and how the ship was crashing, and then all of a sudden you thought they were going to make it, and they went into the water. Like that was a really well directed like little scene. What I'm not liking about the Mando overall this season, even though I like the show, what I'm not liking overall is that it's acting like an Iron Man 2, where it's setting up the rest of Disney's having a big emergency shareholders meeting or something like that, where they're going to start pitching a bunch of spinoffs, and it's kind of believed that Bo-Katan's getting a spinoff, or they're going to pitch her having a spinoff, or Ahsoka Tano and her, or something like that. And so, like, I feel like they're using the only, I guess, mostly positive Star Wars property right now. And I think they like Mandalorians. Let's give them a whole show of Mandalorians, or let's give them this. And I kind of just like that the Mando is doing his own thing, has a, it was simplistic type of thing. I mean, you can world build, but I don't want him to be a jumping off point for every Star Wars series that's coming up. Let him be his own. He doesn't have to be connected to the major going ons of the universe. You know what I mean? Like, so that was, well, I like seeing her. Her name is Katie.
Katie
Yeah. Oh, Battlestar Galactica. I love her.
Yeah.
Starbucks for life. Let me think, she did a great job with the armor. Like her armor was pretty much picked up from Clone Wars and dropped in here. Like I thought that was great. I don't know why I didn't know that she voiced the character in the Clone Wars. My issue with her though is she should be like 50 or 60 at this point, and they did not age the character at all. It's kind of like they were just. If you think about it, let's be generous and say she was at least 20 in Clone Wars, right? You got 20 more years before New Hope. You got 10 years after Return of the Jedi, and let's say it's 4 to 6 years in between that. Like, like she should have been a lot older than. I think Katie is like in her early 40s.
She's 40. She was born in 1980.
I
just looked it up because I was like, well, how old is Katie Sackhoff?
So she's 40. The character should at least be.
Listen, in the future, they have really good skincare routine.
It's a galaxy far, far away.
I'm sorry. In a galaxy far, far away, they have really good skincare routine.
We have not seen that so far. They've had so far.
It's actually a part of Mandalorian culture is they wear helmets so that you don't know how beautiful they are.
Maybe it protects your skin from the element.
Yeah, no sun damage.
And so you're just like you're sweating under there, so your sweat's keeping your skin looking young. That's what's going on. But I need to stop questioning Dave Filoni. I am pretty sure that Dave Filoni had it mapped out about the cultists of the Watch. I'm pretty sure Dave Filoni thinks about these characters a lot. I think characters that show up in Clone Wars, he may be a little too biased towards, but I think that he maps out how they fit in the Star Wars universe pretty well. That's my takeaway from it. I just don't want the Mandalorian to be a jump off point for every new Star Wars show, or every new Star Wars show to be a copy of the Mandalorian.
Oh, that's perfect. Okay. Let me see. I'm with Stephanie. I didn't care too much for it. But I hate that feeling because I haven't cared too much for any Mandalorian episode this season, and that's not good. Same again with Stephanie. I was 100% in love with the fact that the show was super separate from everything, but I'm not gonna say I didn't expect it to come in at some point, for them to, especially with the end of last season. I was like, it's definitely gonna happen. I was like, again, when Anthony had said they're probably never gonna talk about it again at Darksaber. It's it was the biggest thing of this episode was the Darksaber. It was a cool callback to Rebels and Clone Wars. Seeing Katie Sackhoff's character. It was a very cool callback to that. I was like, okay, well, this is nice. This is a way to expand or connect what we know. If you watch those shows of Mandalorian culture, and if you're not an avid watcher of this, if you're not an avid watcher or you never saw the Star Trek TV shows, I thought that was a cool connect. I don't think you have to. This is another question I'm going to ask. So, before I even say anything, I'm going to ask you guys. So, watching this episode, did you feel like you had to watch the Clone Wars or the other shows to understand what was going on, with Katie's character and Mandalorian and the whole Mando thing, or was it just something that you just said, it was a nice callback, but don't really care too much about it?
I feel like by the end of the episode, we had enough information to.
And that if you never saw them again, you'd be okay with it?
I mean, there's clearly a storyline with the Darksaber that if it's not pursued would be really frustrating. So I think we have to see Bo-Katan again. We actually learned Bo-Katan's name by having the subtitles on because we were having trouble understanding all the water races.
Right.
And whenever she talks, it would say Bo-Katan, and whatever she said. And I was like, how do we know her name? Like, how is this character named? Like, I don't know. So it was a little strange at that point, but by the end of the episode, I think I felt I understood enough about who Bo-Katan is to follow.
I mean, I would agree that like if all of that stuff stopped at this episode, it would be fine. I just feel like this episode was the writing on the wall of like we're digging into deeper mythos. We're digging into deeper, or like we're picking up old storylines and we're gonna see them play out in Mando. I was kind of confused because Bo-Katan is like, I want something that was once mine, but my vague understanding of the Darksaber is that it had been lost to the Mandalorian culture for a very long time. So I don't understand how it used to be hers.
If you had watched, was it Rebels? I think what's her name, Sabine gives it to her, or it was hers at a point.
Okay.
She had it. It was in her possession. I don't know if it was hers, but it was in her possession.
So, and I think that's part of what I mean by like you need to have watched these other things or have this background information, because if you haven't watched any of the other shows, one, you don't know what a Darksaber is. You don't know why it's important. You don't know why this crazy Mando lady is killing people in order to get it again. You don't know that she needs it in order to be Empress of the Mandalorian. Like you don't understand why it's an important artifact. And so without that background information, like why are we spending so much time on it?
Right.
I felt that way at the end of season 1 because I did not know what the Darksaber was. And I went and looked it up and kind of found out that it was important to Mandalorian.
Yeah, it just sucks that you have to like go do your own research in order to care about the storylines they're following.
Right. Well, Ant?
I think that I like the concept of the Darksaber. I like that it was a relic in this show. I don't like how Rebels made it. It was more like when Rebels came out, it was like, oh, this is a symbol of the powerful Mandalore, and it'll help you identify the clans. It shouldn't be. It's not like King Arthur's sword though, right? And it shouldn't be like King Arthur's sword. Like, oh, if you don't have this, because it was apparently it was in a Jedi temple for almost 1,000 years. So like there were other Mandalorian leaders besides that. So that's what I said. I think some concepts that came from Clone Wars and Rebels, they're a little too biased towards. We don't even know the state of the clans at this point, right? Because they put a lot of new lore in there that we haven't seen. Like apparently there's another purge or whatever. And they haven't even really explained Beskar all that well yet. So I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of people are watching this show that aren't into Star Wars and probably got into it because of like Baby Yoda or it's live action on Disney Plus and it's the new thing. And for them to have to do, animatrix type research and other things to understand what's actually going on, I think it's a mistake. If you guys don't know, like the Matrix came out, I think it was Matrix Reloaded or Matrix whatever, and they had all these other different mediums that explains the plot of the movie. And while that's good for people that will absorb all that, regular people that are just going to the theater, like my girlfriend's mom at the time, she was like, "What is going on? When did this happen? Who?" Like, and and I feel like that's the show. If you just watch the show because you saw Baby Yoda, it was on Disney Plus, the Mandalorian's kind of cool. You don't know what the hell this plot was about. You don't know what's going on. You're probably as shocked as he was that they didn't take off their helmet. So that I don't know. That's what I think. I think the Darksaber could be cool, but like I said, I think it's just a setup. It's a MacGuffin for another show or a bigger plot line that we really don't need.
All right, so that's the Darksaber. That's
Can I ask one question though?
Go ahead.
Y'all mentioned that y'all have a problem with the egg. Can I ask? Because I've been joking about it all week, but I don't want to be like. I don't want to be I like being able, but I don't want to be. I don't want to be used to like other perspectives and what's that. So, what exactly is the problem that y'all have with the egg eating? And I'm not being a dick. I'm really curious what the perspective is.
I think if you are struggling with infertility or miscarriage or child loss of any nature, and you see a mom desperate to have her offspring come to fruition to the point where she's trusting her life and her children with a complete and total stranger, and then you watch that complete and total stranger's child eat the last line of this woman's heritage, that's hella upsetting.
It also add into that just the idea of sapience and sentience. Like, we're not eating a chicken egg, we're eating
a sentient species
egg. How is that really different than cannibalism? Yeah, it's not your race, but you're killing somebody of
higher intelligence.
Yeah.
And more so just that Mando doesn't do anything about it. Like, and we see that carried out into this episode where he doesn't even he knows it's wrong, right? He won't name what happened in front of frog parents, but he doesn't warn them. There's no baby gates in a galaxy far, far away. He doesn't do anything to prevent it from continuing to happen. So it's just it's insensitive in addition to being a controversial topic to begin with.
So my perspective is that this is a chaotic, kind of messed up, kind of gritty universe, and stuff happens. And I get what you're saying, because we're all gonna have triggering things. I think I put in the chat we had there's a recurring joke in the Marvel Cinematic Universe where Rocket Raccoon is stealing amputees' limbs and stuff, and he finds it very funny. I am so shocked, and I find it funny, amusing, because he's a jerk character, right? He's supposed to be a jerk character. It's something a jerk character does. But I'm shocked that they put those in those Disney movies. That this popular character, is making fun of amputees. But what would you, if they want to do the joke? If they want to do the joke and the humor and also show that this continuing thing that this ain't Yoda. This is Yoda's a vegetarian. This baby Yoda is like left alone with those tadpoles, he might eat the tadpole type of thing. How would y'all like that addressed? I mean, if the writer came in and said, "Oh, I got this,"
the universe said nope.
I'm trying to get something happen, but
So I think.
But what would y'all? What? Because there's going to be a trigger to I watch certain shows about certain things, and just because of my own background, it triggers me. So how would y'all write the scene, or do you think there's no redeemable thing in the scene?
I think it makes it doesn't bother me necessarily that Baby Yoda would want to eat the eggs. A child is a child; they don't understand that in and of itself. It doesn't matter. Or rather, it doesn't necessarily upset me. It's all of the stuff that happens around it, that it keeps happening, that Mando doesn't think is important enough to stop it, right? Essentially, Mando's lack of intervention it could be interpreted as him saying the frog race isn't as important. I don't care if they live or die. They are an ends to a means to me, and I don't care what happens in the interim. It's what happens in response to Baby Yoda eating the eggs more than the fact that Baby Yoda is eating eggs.
So there's no consequence or comeuppance or whatever.
Exactly.
For me, I think the biggest thing that's troubling is how much time they spend making it important, making the eggs important. Yeah. If I don't make it there by a certain time, days, then my entire race is going to die.
Or her lineage.
I thought it was the entire race.
No, just her
their bloodline.
And then I don't know, you spend that much time making it important and then make a joke of it at the same time.
Yeah, you just throw it away.
All right. Well,
Okay, and so and again, I want to make clear that everybody, no feelings are wrong. So I don't ever want to come off like I'm thinking your feelings are wrong or anything like that. Like every feeling is important.
don't
Every feeling
act.
has
Get
value.
it. You hate. You feel.
Well, no, I think it's important. I think it's important to
You
say.
think eating eggs is funny. I'm
Well,
kidding.
no,
I'm kidding. I'm
but
kidding.
but I think that I think that I saw there was so all these lists that started popping up again because of the Disney thing coming up of who deserves a spinoff on the show more than Bubba Fett or da da da. And they went that Bubba Fett can't have it because he's an irredeemable character. He's a bad guy with a Mando redeemable because he takes care of Baby Yoda. But I think we forget that the Mando isn't a quote unquote good guy. He's not a Luke Skywalker or you know what I mean. Like he kills people. He kills people and tracks people for a living. Like this isn't what am I
He's
trying
not
to
a
say?
good guy.
Yeah, he's not a good guy. He's a guy who because he relates to Baby Yoda because he was an orphan. That's the reason why he's doing this.
You don't think it's Jedi glamour?
Oh, that is a very good thought. I never even thought about that because
I think it's glamour. Glamour being a fantasy term for when dragons like use charismatic magic to make people like them.
yeah.
I think Baby Yoda glamored Mando, and that's why he went back to save him.
Oh, that'd be such a good plot and betrayal thing, and that'd be great. See, you should
Like
write this down.
akin to the way that Leia uses the Force to be diplomatic. I think Baby Yoda was like, "I'm in peril, daddy me."
That can make sense.
That sounds like
Baby cat.
Yeah,
Baby cat.
that's a good theory. I never heard that before. That's cool.
So
Thanks for explaining that to me, by the way.
I spoke about Mando's armor being like able to withstand like punches, and he like gets hit in it. In this episode, they said, "Yo, Mo, we heard you, and we're gonna one up that." And while everyone else is hiding behind walls and like he's like, "Nah, I got this."
I got this, Bo. Let's go.
And he's taking shots, and I'm like, again,
It's so
what? Like, what's this armor? Look, his best car confuses me because his again maybe like super heavy and super weighted because when he went in the water, he pretty much was sinking until he had to turn on the jetpack to save himself. But I think the other Mandalorian like dove head first into the water, and we didn't. I guess we didn't see her struggle.
Is it an issue of purity? Like his Beskar is 100% Beskar, whereas the common Mandalore can only afford like 20% Beskar.
They're not.
Well, she was part of the ruling house. Yeah. And that armor's 3 generations old. Like her sister was the queen of Mandalore.
That does not mean you have money if your planet is collapsed.
No, they haven't. I mean,
no. You see, this is where if you'd watched the other Star Wars shows, you'd get it. But I'm just saying, like his armor, it's they're playing loose and very,
loose and fast and loose.
Yeah, fast and loose with his armor, and I love it, and then I don't because at least when they fired the heavy gun, he went down. So I'm like, okay, cool. It's not like. Go ahead.
Well, now I think the armor's too good. I think that it's since he just took all that blaster fire from a hallway of stormtroopers. Like my estimation is when he's in trouble or not. Like I'm not going to care as much. I thought the intro when he was drowning. Matter of fact, I thought that was a very clever way to get him. By the way. And they pushed Baby Yoda thing in the thing, and he jumped after it, and their reflex, and they closed. I was like, that is a smart ass move. I was like, that is almost Batman worthy at that moment.
I definitely feel like they change the properties of the armor based on what they need to happen in the story.
Right, and I think that's when you lose. And this is the thing: world building is important. If I know the armor can take this, but not this, or I know the armor's weakness is this and not this, then I know when he's in trouble. I know when. It's like kind of like what was that Superman movie where he fell down a kryptonite, but all of a sudden he lifted a kryptonite island, and you're like, what? Like, yeah, you're like, well,
he supercharged, and then he lifted the island of kryptonite.
Yeah. like that takes me out of the.
Time out. Sorry. If that's like your Superman story that you're questioning, you're not going to question him building the wall of the Great Wall of China in like 2.5. Like
It was the 80s. You do anything in the 80s.
like there's so many other questionable Superman moments, and that's the one. Okay.
Yeah, but my point being is, but that's a good point. The reason why Superman had to be changed because in the 60s he would come up with new powers for every like situation that came up. So like he could shoot little mini Superman out of people. He could, just it was like weird stuff that went on back and forth. So there was never any real danger because you knew he's gonna come out with the power. This Mandalorian armor at this point, he's never. I don't think they should have given him the full suit if the suit's going to be this powerful, especially compared to other Mandalorian armors, because I don't see the threat now. And he has a weapon that instantly disintegrates you, kind of thing. So I don't know. That's just my thoughts on it.
All right. Well, because as something, I was like, I got to talk about this because I've said something about the armor every episode, and they just keep saying, "Hey, look, okay, we got you one more." Next week, watch him take like Ahsoka's lightsaber. That would be the one that would just have me for it.
Well, tell me something. As you watch the show, Mandalorian armor was designed to fight Jedi. So how does you're looking at me funny? That was the purpose of their armor initially.
Oh, okay then.
So the armor is based on the expanded universe concept of It's called Mandalorian iron. And it was one of the few substances that could withstand a direct hit from a lightsaber, right? And they kind of expanded on that idea because there used to be a James, correct me if I'm wrong. There used to be a creature they used to ride or a vehicle they used to talk about in the Old Republic called like a Beskar or a Basilisk or something like that. You know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Don't they reference it in season 1 when Quill is like, you have to ride this beast, and Mando's like, I don't know how to ride that, and he's like, well, the people, your ancient bloodline rode whatever.
Oh, good point. Yeah, good point. Yeah, so they mentioned that, and I think they kind of took that name and put that into this. But even then, it's kind of like it only covers so many parts of your body,
right.
But it seems like every punch, every blade, every shot is just right on the center chest piece.
Because I'm like, it was at least 10 of them back there, and nobody. Like,
although they did make that joke before they went in that there's like a whole platoon of troopers, but they can't hit anything.
Right. There's one more thing I wanted to ask.
Right.
Okay, so the plan, the assault on the ship, and the guy who's trying to crash the ship. What did you guys think of that whole? Yes.
The actor, I will say that this episode was exciting as far as like the star power behind it, like bringing Katie Sackhoff on. While I ultimately did not care for Bo-Katan, like I love her, I love Katie Sackhoff.
I mean, I think she voiced it too on the show, so it's a thing where they had her and her, do the thing. It's kind of cool.
And then they had Titus Welliver as the commander of the ship, and I love him. He's so great. And I think he did a great job on the episode too.
I don't like show the hell out of Bob.
Did you catch what he said?
Bob.
You're all laggy. I have no idea what you're saying.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said I don't like cop shows, but I will watch the hell out of Bosch.
I haven't even watched Bosch. I love him from Deadwood.
Yes, I love him on Deadwood, but Bosch somehow just I don't know. He's just really good on Bosch. But he's really great. He's a great actor. Yes, I'll give you that.
I was a little
and it's sad though because episode 1 we're saying, oh, you don't bring on an actor like Timothy Oliphant to just kill him off. But then you bring in
Star season.
Right, you bring in Titus Welliver and you have him gone the same episode. It was great though that they're like, okay, well, they've gotten as far as the commander was like, oh, they've gotten as far as they've gotten. There's nothing else you can do. Just take the ship down. Like,
why doesn't it have a self-destruct? Why does he personally
because if they had self-destruct, you wouldn't have gotten a cool Beskar scene. everything happened for a reason.
Until after that point.
This is like James's thing on Discovery where he's like, why didn't they just beam directly into the sea pod? They have to walk through all that vegetation. James. They had to talk about the cool little plants that are outside, and they had to do that. But no,
Look, the
you're
set
right.
builders built it. You gonna put it on the show, guys.
You had to see all the doors. Like, oh my god, close all the doors. Where do you have?
I
them
did
trapped?
really enjoy that airlock moment, though.
Yeah, it's like,
Miracle.
where do you have them trapped? Oh, we have them trapped in the control bay. What?
Yeah. I do want to. I do want. So I do want Stormtroopers to be a little, again, like it was a joke. It was a joke in the original trilogy that Stormtroopers couldn't shoot or whatever. But these are also like the hero characters they were going against, right? Do Stormtroopers have to be incompetent like in every, you know what I mean? Because it's almost like like they're a threat at this point. So
If you're competent, as we see.
Didn't it happen in season 1 where they tried to shoot something?
They tried to shoot the can.
And
yeah, I think that was like Wakiti's episode, and so he was talking about they couldn't shoot the can. But you want me to believe that these Stormtroopers wiped out all Mandalorians and took their Beskar armor when we see Beskar armor is like invincible. Like,
but these aren't the same Stormtroopers that wiped out Mandalore. Like these aren't the Clone Warriors.
They're not.
Well, no, because we know it's his company, right? We know it's Gus Fring's company. So this is his company of Stormtroopers that wiped out the Mandalores.
Oh, okay. But
Right.
are they still alive, I guess? Because as you pointed out earlier, we're talking like 30, 40 years later. And
so we know the purge happened somewhere in between. I mean, I'm sorry, I just cut you off. My bad.
No, I was shaking my head not because you cut him off, but because like we're solidly landing in the territory that I opened this episode with of like I liked Mando because we didn't have to have all of these arguments about what
you have to understand EU and the other shows to fully grasp this.
Like I didn't mean to like stop that. Like keep having that conversation. It just sucks.
The other part
No,
of
I didn't know she could hit. I just noticed that. Sometimes I talk when I think, and sometimes I don't. Like I don't see. Like sometimes I have a thought, I go, wait, no, and everybody think that way. So sorry, you had a thought.
Well, the other part I was going to say is in the original trilogy, New Hope through whatevs, the stormtroopers in there. I know it's not dressed in the movies, but it's dressed outside of that. They aren't the Clone Warriors. Like they're like hired up among the people. They do have to meet the same like height requirements as the Clone Warriors, but they're not clones.
That's
so in EU.
That's why the comment about like, because they had to fill the armor that already existed, but that's why you're a little short to be a stormtrooper is a line in the first movie.
Oh. So in the EU, there's a big step. So Disney came in and said they scrapped everything in the EU and they said everything in the books was going to be canon and everything in the shows was canon, but it's not, because even the Cobb Vance thing is a canon to the book that came out about heaven. So, but before it was that the Emperor started phasing out clone troopers once the rebellion tried to get some clones, go to Geonosis and get the clone pods or whatever. They started to phase them out. So the Emperor didn't want a vast army of competent soldiers apparently for some strange reason, and they started conscripting from planets, which is why Han Solo was technically a stormtrooper. Now in the EU, but it's confusing. It's confusing if you don't, because one, Disney doesn't have it straight, and we just don't know. But no, they're not. There was. I remember in a comic that a couple of the clones were still on the 501st, like Vader's personal. You know what I'm trying to say, battalion or whatever. Yeah, but most of the clones got retired. And even in Rebels, they offer Rex a job at training and wearing armor again. So like when they capture him because of his record. So, but I think it is confusing. They're not the top. They made a big point of saying that they're like, even the George Lucas era, that the clone troopers were not the same as the stormtroopers. And you saw how professional the clone troopers were. They were competent. The clone troopers were competent soldiers. The stormtroopers aren't as competent. They're more like we have masses, waves of these troops. So if you kill the first 100 of them, we have another 10,000 that can still come through and mow you down and all that kind of stuff. But I just don't feel like they're a threat at all. Do you?
No. I've never thought clone troopers, stormtroopers were a threat. They can't. I mean, and the running joke is they can't shoot. And again, I think you continue that joke in every iteration of the show. In Clone Wars, it was a thing. And you know, if you weren't a part of the fives, you weren't cool enough, and you couldn't hit anything because for some reason the fives can shoot anything. But every other
You lost me on that. Who are the fives?
Are you serious? They were the name. They had names. Crap. Rex.
They're
Rex
talking about that. They're talking about the clone troop group that we saw.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
five. Yeah.
No, the clones were competent. All the clones were competent.
It's debatable because
Delta Squad died. Or most of them died the first time we saw them, and then
Right.
at the end of the series, there was one left.
I'm sorry, Stephanie. We're kind of, you know what? Let's come back. Let's come back to Mandalorian. Ultimately, this episode happened, and but there were cool things that happened. So there's one cool thing that I wanted to address. You know, I thought, you know, for a second it may have been a bonding moment with Baby Yoda and the baby frog. What would you call a baby frog? Tadpole. Yeah, with Baby Yoda and the young tadpole. It was cool to see that when they got to the planet, one of the eggs had hatched when she found her husband. When she was croaking, and then he croaked back, and it was kind of cool. Like they did a run hug type moment, and I was like, oh, you know, cool things.
I did appreciate. I think we touched on this briefly. I'm struggling to remember what conversation happened on this versus before we started recording, but I did appreciate that we're getting different perspectives on Mandalore culture, like establishing that Mando is a part of an extremely zealous subgroup of Mandalorian culture is interesting. Because I don't know anything about that. Which again is why I think we're heading towards territory where you need to have background knowledge for it to make sense. Right. But I have no idea what the Watch is or dark, like none of that. But
that's why
it's interesting.
Sorry. I'm gonna tell you the Death Watch.
Because Bo-Katan like establishes like, hey, you're the crazy one in this scenario. And then as the episode plays out, he's the one with morals and she's the one without.
Yeah, right. Because she's going through every end to get to what she wants, and he's like, wait a minute, you're kind of deading everybody right now. So who again is the crazy one? And you take the helmet off.
See, I didn't think about that either. If you don't know the story, then it could seem like she's not as committed as him, right? Is that how it comes off? Not seeing that?
100%.
Yeah. So, and I think that.
So I, as somebody who is not, I am a very casual Star Wars fan. Coming into Mandalore, Mando, I thought that his creed was the standard, and like people like Boba Fett were the weird ones, like that there was some kind of like weird circumstance, but like that the Mandalorian being displayed in this show is representative of the larger Mandalore culture, and obviously that is not the case.
Nope.
But honestly, as fans, we didn't know what was going on either, because Disney had a habit of just changing lore, right? So we weren't sure if they were just adding
running.
I mean, you're right, Mo, but we didn't know. We didn't know they were just changing that all Mandalorians would keep the helmet on. Like they didn't say anything, and sometimes you can't always trust what plans are going behind the scenes, because we know originally this show was based off the movie for Boba Fett, and Boba Fett in Expanded Universe never took his helmet off until they did Attack of the Clones. It was just something he did, not because he was a clone or anything like that, and they incorporated that into this. So we didn't know what was going on, but what the history, I won't go on to it, but like the history in Clone Wars is that her sister was part of a reformation of taking Mandalorians from a warrior culture to a peaceful culture. And she joined up with Death Watch. And Death Watch had a history in Expanded Universe with Jango Fett, but that's not canon, who were the descendants of the first and I think only Mandalorian Jedi. I don't know if it's only, but it was the first Mandalorian Jedi who had a dark saber, and so that's why it was big to his clan. He took over, was going to make it military, and then Darth Maul killed him and took it over. So I mean that's how it is. But like they were always a zealot, trying to like go back to being a warrior race. So I kind of like that they put that in there, because they had Clan Vizsla's, I'm not saying the name right, insignia as the pen that saved Mando when he was a kid. So I don't know. But see, I just said all that. I'm sure none of that made any goddamn sense. So,
No.
Talked in it when you're out the other.
So
Sorry.
that's the thing. I'm sorry. I was watching it and I had to actually like stop and think for a second because I was watching it, just passively watching it, and I was like, oh wait, time out. When I saw her and then I was like, oh crap, this kind of changes everything. And it took me a while to connect the Clone Wars and what I know about the Mandalorians and the Mandalorian culture from Clone Wars and Rebels, to this show for a second, because I'm like, wait a minute, so Mandalorian, because if for some reason I'd watched this show like this is the Mandalorian, this is the Mandalorian way, I'd forgotten about the Clone Wars thing. And again, that was a good thing, to be honest. It's a good thing because you want the show to be independent of every other Star Wars lore, and it's a thing on its own. Well, you touch lore here, you touch lore there, but you want the show to be an independent show. But as you said, as Anthony has said, this is the episode that lets us know that we're getting other stuff.
I do like, in general, I'm a huge fan when done well. People do this and they botch it and it's awful, but when done well, I love when your narrator is unreliable.
yeah.
And that is, I feel like that was just established in this episode, is that like the narrator, I mean, it's like it's not an actual person telling us the story, but the lens through which we're getting this story is that Din Djarin is the epitome of Mandalorian culture, and we're learning that he's not, and that is a cool story mechanic.
Yes,
that is really cool. He set it up because you saw with Justified when he took off his helmet, that was a great setup for this moment here. Like we saw, and I thought that was really well done. And also, I'm gonna piggyback on what you said. Is I love it that too often, I think it's called the Planet of the Hats. It's like you go to this planet, everybody's wearing the same hat, everybody has the same clothes, everybody has the same religion and everything like that. That's not really what cultures are like, right?
Right.
So it's even funny that Terry, I forget her name, she played my favorite Star Trek character, Dax. She was talking about how they used to talk about how the original times the characters were brought up, the trills were brought up on in TNG. They had head ridges, and when the producers made DS9, they thought she was too beautiful to cover up her face, so they gave her spots. And she's like, in my head canon, what I tell the other trail actors is that we're from the northern tribe of Trail, and they're from the southern, and that's why we have different. And I love that an actor makes head, you know what I mean? Like they just add a little depth to the thing. So seeing these different cultures in a Star Wars show, which is known for, this is a desert planet, this is a water planet, this is a forest planet. Like I don't know. I think that was a really cool. That added more depth to the show than I think I realized.
Totally.
Okay, so cool thing that happened at the end when Baby Yoda is bonding with the tadpole and Mando pulls him off, and it's like, hey, he doesn't want to go. He obviously doesn't want to go. And then at the end, we get that, scene with the
Creepy Crawly.
Yeah, Crawly. And
he finally gets to eat. Baby Yoda spends his entire life starved. Finally gets to eat something.
Right. So I think to the egg thing, they're just establishing that Baby Yoda will eat anything. But there's valid complaint about the egg thing. But I think this was done. I don't know if I felt like they knew people were going to say something about the egg thing. So they're like, oh, let's just add another episode of him just throwing anything in his mouth. And it looks like he's in danger for a little bit, but I guess he really wasn't.
What if Baby Yoda can talk? What if he's just playing like this because he's small and cute and he can actually like reason? He's going to come out and speak one day. Like when all the chips are down, he's gonna start like, I got this, Dad. It's cool.
I was not worried for Baby Yoda when the thing was on his face either time, whether it came out of the soup or it dropped from when it was about to drop onto him inside the ship.
Not at all. I was worried for the thing.
Yeah, I was like, how long is Baby Yoda gonna let this happen before he just like wipes everyone in the room out?
Yeah, because we know he can force choke. We know, and I think. And again, I'm going to trust in Dave Filoni because I hate that they use the Force now like it's a mutant power. Like you awaken and you have all the Force powers. Like I don't like that. I like it better when it's a skill. But maybe I'm trusting Dave Filoni. This thing's been around for 50 years, they confirmed, and he does know what he's doing. Like he's not, he's had some training or practice or whatever. Because like we've seen him like he was gonna kill that droid. Like if Mando didn't kill that droid and pointed the gun at him, he was gonna F that droid up. So
And then he forced the lady in season 1.
Yeah.
He's pretty. He's a badass.
When that squid crawled towards him, I wasn't worried for Baby Yoda at all. I was like, well, what's going to happen to the squid thing? This squid thing was minding its own business, and it got put on the ship.
Right. So at the end of the episode, they tell him where to go to find Ahsoka Tano and name drop. Not just a name drop; it's a big name drop. Anthony, I know Patrick is not here, but I'm going to answer this question for him. Oh my God, guys, I'm super excited. We get Ahsoka next week. I can't wait. This is going to be the best thing about Mandalorian ever. I'm going to love it. I'm going to love seeing Ahsoka Tano. I am, however, worried, though, that they're using another actress for her and not using the original actress. So that's going to be my only worry. But, oh my gosh, Ahsoka Tano, yes. Patrick, Anthony, do you care?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ahsoka Tano. Like I've told you before, like to me, that's the way you develop. If you want to go for the even he's saying it because she's just a strong character. I want to say strong female character. Ahsoka is just a strong character. Probably up there with Leia, in my opinion, versus Rey. You know, like that's where I look at it. And I know it doesn't mean a lot, Stephanie, because you haven't watched, like, you didn't grow up with, I mean, not grow up, but you didn't see her grow up through the Clone Wars and then see her an adult in Rebels. So, like, seeing her journey, I'm interested to see how they're going to do it. I'm kind of worried because Rosario Dawson isn't, like, a martial artist. So, like, are they going to do a lot of jump cuts and she has to fight? Because Ahsoka is a very kinetic fighter. And, you know, we've seen it. But she's also, like, a big character. And it's kind of like, do you know League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? It's an Alan Moore comic, and it was a movie with Sean Connery, with like all these like literary people in like a superhero movie.
Wait, what's the title?
League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Oh, yeah, sorry, I couldn't. Yeah,
I love that movie.
Okay, yeah. So the book is way better, of course. But Alan Moore had talked about how why didn't put Sherlock Holmes or Dracula in the stories. And he was like, because they're such big characters, they will overshadow my other characters. And putting Ahsoka Tano in this is kind of like it's like a really big thing. It's somebody who was right there when the Clone War stuff happened. Somebody who's battled Darth Maul and Sidious and Darth Vader. Like it's a really big thing, and it's a Dave Filoni directed episode. So it's going to be heavy and kind of favor her a lot. So because he loves her, he created the character, he loves her. So I'm worried of how they're going to use her and how that affects the show that's called The Mandalorian.
And you know what? I'm sorry, but Anthony, I'm right there with you on the worried part because again, this is Dave Filoni's baby. This is his character, and what are we going to get? Is he going to be like super into, like, are they going to overuse her on, as you said, on a show called The Mandalorian? They made sure to drop the name at this episode, and I'm excited and worried. That's why I am with this. Stephanie, James?
I'm worried I won't care.
Wow.
I don't know who she is. I don't know why she's a big deal. Don't give a flip. I like Rosario Dawson, but I don't. That name drop means nothing to me.
Did you even watch the Clone Wars movie that came out this year?
I didn't watch anything.
Oh, okay.
What she said at the beginning of the
super casual Star Wars fan. It is Star Trek in my heart.
Enough Clone Wars to know who this character is, but not enough to care about her. Okay. I never really appreciated the young Ahsoka Tano, which is all I saw on Clone Wars.
Oh, because then you miss a lot of like her development.
Yeah.
Which is funny about her character is that Dave told her like people are going to hate you because we're introducing Anakin's apprentice that we were talking about before. People are going to hate you, and then you'll be loved by the fans. So if you only saw that first version, you don't care.
Yeah, as I said earlier, and I think I've said it twice now. I am worried that this was the last episode that will make sense to me.
Wow, that's a big worry, and that's a great place to end the show. I love it. Yes, it's really great. Please don't. Please don't. No. I will mute your mic, sir. But no, this is a great place to end the show because then it now opens up for what we're going to see next week and how, how that's going to feel. We'll come back to address your feelings next week and hear your thoughts on next week's episode, because I'm definitely going to start with you, how you felt about the episode, what you thought, do you care moving forward? That is going to be huge. Thank you very much, James. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Thank you very much, Ant, for coming at the beginning of this and not at the end. I love it.
That's fine.
Thank you, everyone that watched. Thank you, everyone that's going to be listening. We will catch you next week for chapter 12, episode 4 of The Mandalorian. Hopefully, we get a lot more insight into the actual plot of this story, because again, we got a very, very thin thread to move us forward into this, but everyone is going to be talking about Bo-Katan and Ahsoka Tano for the next couple of weeks. Again, thank you very much for watching. We'll catch you next week.